Well, welcome to episode 239 of 3 Point Podcast. We're proudly partnered with Memorial Healthcare, home of the new Now Community Wellness Center. Make sure you check out the fall open house on November 16th from 4 to 7. Tours, raffles, smoothie samples from the Big Salad, all kinds of other specials, including 50% off enrollment fees and a big tabletop show with over 30 vendors. And it all takes place November 16th at the Now Building on North Shiawassee Street in Owosso, Michigan. We're also teamed up with Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry, many locations throughout the state of Michigan. They still are honoring that coupon code 3.20 at the Corona store. 20% off Skymint products. Only new customers can use that the first time out. Also, if you're a customer at another dispensary, hey, make the switch. Check out Skymint Cannabis. All right, they have the good stuff. That's what they like to say. Also, we want to thank our local partners, AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse and Hit and Pitch, Pro Real Estate and Auction, NCG Cinemas. They're partnered up with us for the big MSU Michigan game. We'll tell you more about that in a second. Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Got a fun podcast in store for you with sports directors Sam Ali of Mid-Michigan Now, channels 25 and Fox 66, and host of For the Win, and also ABC12's Brandon Green, host of The Highlight Zone. And we'll get it all going in just a minute, but let's talk a little bit about our giveaway. We got a Jim Harbaugh football that we're going to be giving away and a whole bunch more, but it's all courtesy of the great people at NCG.
Yes, sir. NCG Cinemas is the official movie theater sponsor of 3 Point Podcast. Visit NCG to see all the newest movie releases in comfort by reserving one of our VIP reclining seats. Plus, NCG also has free refills on popcorn and soft drinks, so you get the most value out of your movie-going experience. See you there at Owosso, NCG Cinema. That's where I used to go all the time. I remember they used to have a deal back in the day. I don't know if they do anymore. If you brought your movie ticket stub to Taco Bell, you got like a free taco. So that was like our Friday, Saturday night when I was, middle school, high school. You'd go to a movie, you'd take your ticket stub over to Taco Bell, get a taco. Or actually, the bowling alley right there. Why am I blanking on the name?
Used to be Capital Bowl.
Yeah, Capital Bowl. If you took your movie ticket stub there too, you get like free shoes. So anyway,
yeah, no,
that's where you go.
That's no longer a thing. It'd be awesome if it was, even though I'm not a big Taco Bell guy. But no, I tell you what, the movie going experience for the people of maybe my generation who have basically almost phased it out, it's still incredible, man. Like when I saw Top Gun Maverick, that still sticks with me. I mean, what a great time that was at NCG Owosso, man. I love going to the theater. There's nothing like it.
I got to ask you, Jared, you're the big superhero guy. Are you looking forward to Black Adam with The Rock?
No.
Not at all.
I'm not a DC. Those movies have been not that great to this point. But here's the thing about always going to the theater is it's always going to be a good time, man. Right. Whether it's The Rock, whether it's, a DC movie, a Marvel movie, we just get the popcorn, get a nice little frozen Coke and just enjoy yourself, man. But I would say of all the movies, that's not what I'm looking forward to.
Part of the cool thing with NCG, so both of my sisters worked there at one point. One of my sister's now husband, he worked there also. Whenever I went, I never had to pay, and I always got literally garbage bags of popcorn.
Oh my!
They would just bring me and my friends garbage bags of popcorn.
I remember
just go to town.
I remember seeing people hauling those out periodically. That's pretty cool. And our daughter Amy worked there as well, and we had some of that good.
It's like a rite of passage, man. If you're a teenager in Corona or Owosso, chances are you either have a friend that worked there or you yourself work there.
Well, one final plug.
Awesome.
Final plug for NCG is, a lot of people don't realize it, but I like the East Lansing one too. And they have UFC on the big screen coming up November 12th and December 10th. I mean, if you're a UFC fan, and you watch it on your 50-inch screen at home, why not go watch it on the big giant movie screen with that great audio system? It's just a great spot.
Heck yeah. A little maybe inside baseball, maybe something I shouldn't tell, but whatever. It's on the podcast. So my brother-in-law, like I said, he's managing them. He's still involved with NCG. When he was managing one down in Indiana, we would go and we would plug in our Xbox 360s to the theaters and play Halo on on the movie theater screen. That was pretty cool.
That had to be awesome.
It was after hours, of course. It was after hours.
Always heard rumors of that, but man, that would be an absolute blast.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, we're going to get into a little Michigan State talk. And at that Michigan State game over at Rivals, Taphouse and Grille, we have an autographed football courtesy of NCG and Jim Harbaugh, a Jim Harbaugh autographed football. So any of our Michigan fans are going to love it. And Michigan State fans might want to do it and do something bad to it. I don't know. We'll see. But we got all kinds of other good giveaways. We got free food. We've got ESPN swag, and we've got koozies to give away. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to happen at halftime of Michigan State. And we'll get into that in just a bit.
And like we've said, like Rivals, we hype them up. We love them as partners. They've been on board since day one. So we love them as partners, but it is such a great spot to go watch the game. I mean, the food is good. The drinks are good. TVs everywhere. You know, the atmosphere is awesome. They've got a huge, big screen. So if you're not sure what you're doing for the game, go up there and have your chance to win some prizes and watch the game. I wish I was back in town for it. I would head up there too.
I recommend reserving a table if you're planning on it too. And I already have, so it'll be a good setup. But it's going to be 10-foot screen. It's going to be, the game will be on. They'll be on most of the other screens. There might be some World Series action. I don't know. They'll throw on a couple screens, but it's going to be a great atmosphere. Night game, Michigan State. Are you guys on board with the whole blowout thing?
Love it.
Like that?
I think it's cool. I'll be curious to see it like under the lights. You know,
yeah, that's what concerns me a little bit. The maze just looks outstanding.
It does. It should be a great atmosphere, man. And I'm not sure what Michigan's planning for their uniforms. As far as I've seen, they haven't dropped, but they should be incredible. I have a good feeling about them. So
I'm curious to hear the turnout, Ted. You'll have to take some pictures, or
I'll be
at least keep us posted on the turnout at Rivals. That'll be a cool event.
Jared, you gonna be able to make it up?
No, actually, I mean, we'll save this movie for a little bit later in the pod.
Okay.
I've actually been planning tailgate. I've actually never been to a tailgate at a Michigan game, a Michigan State game. The only game I've actually been to a tailgate of is at Notre Dame, believe it or not. So I'm excited to see what Matt basically blesses his childhood on in his formative years of attending those tailgates on Saturdays. So
I'm telling you, man, there's nothing like it. Tailgating on the golf course down there. And I don't know what you're doing. Our friends
we're at Pioneer High School. High School.
Yeah.
Golf course is better, but Pioneer's okay.
We used to have some friends who they posted up. They had a motorhome. They would post by the high school there, so we tailgate there. But our friends at Blue by 90, they have like a huge tailgate. So if you guys are looking to migrate over there, so
stop by there. Something
to check out.
All right, that's for the actual game. Michigan 22-point favorite. Over under set at 54.5. You guys are going to slap me for saying this. I've never felt better going to a Michigan State game in my entire life. I usually, even last year, I was like, we're screwed. In years past, even when we had the Grille team that, barely kind of eked out an ugly win against Lewerke when we had a really good team then, I still didn't feel great heading into that game. Heading into Saturday night's game, I'm going to be on the premises. I'm going to be tailgating. I'm confident, man. I have no worries. I really do think we're going to roll this team by 4 scores. I think you take Michigan to cover the 22 points. It's a lot of points in this rivalry, man. But I really do feel that strongly about this team and how these two teams match up. It's a match made in heaven for Michigan. The crowd's going to be electric. I think we're going with all blue or navy, whatever you want to call Michigan's blue color. We're just ready to roll, man. And I can't wait to see Corum put on a show, whether it's Corum, whether it's Edwards, whether it's Andrew Anthony, maybe from the Clouds, JJ McCarthy, whoever is going to be the hero of this game. I'll be the first one there to give a big old kiss on the cheek. I can't wait.
No, you're right. Everything, the analysts, if we put on our analyst hats, everything points to Michigan should win this game by 3 or 4 scores. They've got an advantage. Almost literally, they've got an advantage at every position. Like I don't know what position you would take a Michigan State player over a Michigan player. Maybe Jalen Reed. That's maybe the one spot, and that's what I go to. Not only just the rivalry thing, Ted. You've seen a billion of these games that play out completely different than the experts expect. So you take that into account. I do think Thorne and Reed and, that passing attack of Michigan State, if they come out and they're just like, we're going to go full Rocky Lombardi in 2020 and just throw it all over and try and 50 passing attempts for Thorne. And we're like, we're not even going to try and run because we know we don't really have a running attack. We're just going to air it out and hope Michigan gets a bunch of pass interference, just hope a bunch of lucky stuff happens. crazy things could happen. Who knows? And I think that's that's the shot. If
100%
Michigan
agree.
if Michigan plays their game, I think they're going to be fine. But
Yeah,
you just never know. You never know what's going to happen.
You have to look at it on paper. Obviously, the Wolverines would be favored and should win. But since you brought up Rocky Lombardi, that's all you have to say is Rocky Lombardi. I mean, stranger things can happen. Of course, this is not the same Michigan team as that was.
Right.
But there have definitely been lesser teams come up for one given day, maybe a bad break, they fumble the ball. There's all kinds of things that can happen in a game of football. So I'm not going to go on record and just say Michigan's going to roll. I definitely think Michigan's going to win, but I'll be happy with a 1-point win. Won't bother me. It's going to be it's going to be a war.
Blood, man. I'm going to be honest. I won't be happy with a 1-point win. As crazy as that sounds, This is our one time to really, really send a message about this rivalry and where it's headed. This Michigan State's not good. Michigan has arguably their best team that we've seen in my lifetime. I would say at this point, through this many games in a season, they're the best they've ever looked. It's time to really, kind of bring the hammer. And maybe I'm crazy for saying that. It's what we've seen last year, and the fact Harbaugh's never beat Mel Tucker. It's a 20-point victory or bust. It's crazy, and I know that's going to come back and haunt me. Maybe Matt will clip it, and after Michigan State wins. But that's really how I feel. I really want to see blood. I want Mel Tucker to be sitting on a throne that's red hot after this game because
tuck going.
That's what I want to see. And if you're a State fan, if you keep this game close, you celebrate it.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be. And that just shows that Mel Tucker still knows how to get the troops rallied for a big game against Michigan, which we always knew D'Antonio knew how to do. Mel Tucker seems to have that same sort of magic in him. This should be a 4-point Michigan victory. Anything less, I don't think we accept it.
Yeah, it should be. Like we said, everything's there for Michigan to just handle this game. And, they're better everywhere. They should.
Right.
But, Mel Tucker, like you said, he's 2-0 against Jim Harbaugh. And we've seen some of the players. Donovan Edwards came out and basically said everything you're saying, Jared.
Yeah.
He came out and said, we're out for blood. We don't want to win this game close. He said Coach Harbaugh hasn't beaten Mel Tucker. We know that. We want to get the Paul Bunyan Trophy back to Ann Arbor. So the players know it. And, but also Michigan State players do too. They have nothing to lose.
That's it.
Listen to everything you're saying, Jared. Michigan State players know they should get trounced. Yeah, we should probably lose by 3 or 4 scores. So let's go out there and let's just figure something out. Let's try and win. And, that sometimes that can play an advantage in a game when they know that they, can just make a mistake here or there and it doesn't matter. Go out and play loose. Who cares?
Absolutely.
And, there's going to be a blowout. And, the atmosphere should be amazing. Jared, you're going to be all nice and tuned up by the time the game.
Dude, I don't know if I'll last, man. That's a long day. It's a long day.
No, it should be awesome. I'm curious to see.
What is the plan? What is the plan for you, Jared? Are you, I know you're tailgating. You're going to be at Pioneer High School. Are you just going to hang out for the atmosphere and then watch the game at a bar or on a big screen TV?
So I don't know. So we're going to be at Pioneer High School is where we're tailgating at. Basically, I was told to get there at noon. Our driver is getting there at 11 to set up. He's kind of a weird, sort of like country boy who think, for whatever reason is like, yeah, we're just gonna sit in the truck all day and we're gonna watch it on TV. I mean, that sounds fun and dandy, but my God, it's probably gonna be freezing cold, and it's not gonna be. I can't just sit in the tailgate of a truck for 10 hours, man. So I know that's what he wants to do. I'm of the belief, like, let's go to a damn bar. We're in Ann Arbor. We could. What the hell is the point of sitting here in this parking lot? We can go do this at in Corona outside of Rivals and have the same experience with a TV out there. So the way I look at it is let's hit the town. Let's go to a few different places and let's really embrace this rivalry and the downtown Ann Arbor because it's going to be on fire. It will be at the tailgate, but man, I don't need to sit at a tailgate for 10 hours. I can sit there for 7 hours. Then when game time rolls around, hit the bars.
I'll say this in my plenty of experience of being in Ann Arbor or East Lansing for games like this. Yes, it would be awesome to go downtown Ann Arbor, go to a bar. It's insane. You're like, good luck getting down there. Good luck trying to find a spot. Right. Good luck getting a drink once you get in the bar. It's just going to be insane. And I also remember you talking about like acting like you're some old wise guy. Not wise, I shouldn't say that. Old like veteran. Like you saying that you're like past. You don't want to be around crowds. Like you don't want to be in the bar where you're elbow to elbow bumping. Right. You got a dude knocking your drink over and then he's trying to fight you because you spilled your drink on him. That's what you're going to run into if you go to the bars because you're going to be like this. So if you got a setup, if you got a TV at your truck, You've got, Wi-Fi, you got set up. You can watch the noon games. You can watch the 3:30 games. The atmosphere of tailgating there, if the weather's good, obviously
awesome.
weather plays a big part. It's amazing. Everyone's going to be throwing a ball around. Everyone's going to be playing cornhole. Everyone's going to be different food and all that kind of stuff.
Skymint.
Skymint's going to, probably going to be flowing. I mean, I get what you're saying. That's a long day. You got to
that, man.
But no,
there's
nothing better. Nothing better.
I'm not out in Royal Oak every weekend, getting hammered. So I'm not exactly equipped for a long day like Ted might be. There really is there's no reason for me to say that. It was just funny. But no, so I hopefully I can last all day, noon to 7:30. Wow, 7.5 hours. Like I said, you're going to be elbow to elbow with people at a restaurant. I agree with that. I'm kind of out on crowds, but it kind of seems like it used to shit show, man. I remember like one time when I was going to a Michigan Ohio State game, I was in traffic for like 2 hours getting down to Ann Arbor. So I'm just hoping to kind of dodge all that. Maybe the fact that it's a night game will help with that. Not going to be the big time rush at 9 a.m. So I'm just excited. And Matt, I know you loved it. Sadly, you never got to experience the tailgate when it was a very, very good team. You kind of were in the Rich Rod era. So maybe it'll be even better than what you experience.
The one thing though would be leaving the game. You talking about traffic? You may as well just stay at your truck, or at that point walk downtown and go try to find a bar, because you're not getting out of there at 11 or 12 o'clock whenever the game gets done.
Right.
But, no, man. And then one thing, make sure you got a good TV setup, because if you're planning on watching at your tailgate and the Wi-Fi keeps going out, or someone doesn't have a generator for the TV or something, it's just a buzzkill. Then you are like, let's just drive back to Corona.
Here's what's funny. So the guy who is setting this up, Milwaukee sales rep. So basically he has all the demos of every single tool. So he's got a generator, he's got the the hotspot, he's got the tent, the Milwaukee tent to go over the truck. Yeah. So we'll be all set in that sense. So that's kind of just a funny little perfect job to have for a tailgater. To be
maybe take a little lounge chair, like lawn chair, and you might be able to take a break somewhere in the day before the game starts, and then you regenerate.
Regenerate. So what are we thinking? We've basically said it, Ted. Or you said Michigan win close? Or are you thinking
I'll throw out a score, 34-17.
Something like that? Okay.
I think 35-7. I have Michigan 35-7. I really do think it's just going to be like a Penn State-esque game, just pounding it down their throat. Mm-hmm. McCarthy has maybe one, deep ball to kind of to electrify the crowd. But other than that, I think it's just going to be the 1-2 punch, Corum and Edwards, and Michigan State's going to have no answer for it.
I'm kind of, I want it to be that way. I want them to be D'Antonio's last game, where Shea Patterson just ran up 50 points or whatever, and put D'Antonio back in his spot. I don't know. I'm leaning more towards Ted. I think maybe it'll be a little close at halftime. Maybe a 7-10 point game, and then second half Michigan pulls away.
Wears them down.
I know we're trying to get out of here. Do you guys not agree with what I said? Basically, it's kind of almost feels like we have to hammer these guys.
Yes.
I don't know why I feel that way. I just feel like it. Michigan State used to do it to us all the time when Michigan sucked.
So you wouldn't be happy with a 34. You wouldn't be happy with a 34-17 win and then move on.
It depends on how that looks. If it's like 24-17 for third quarter, we get one late touchdown. No, I'm not happy with that. But if it's 31-7 at one point, Michigan State throws on a couple late touchdowns, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. It's just there's no reason we shouldn't blow these guys out.
Right.
I will say the bye week definitely helped Michigan State a little bit healthier. They really needed a break when they did in the season to kind of just reset the system. But I don't know. That's just the way I feel. It's cover the spread or bust, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you said we're trying to get out of this discussion. We just want to watch the game. But because if Michigan State keeps it close, that's what they'll say. Right. They'll say we have one of our worst teams in years, and this is supposed to be one of your best teams in years.
You didn't drill us.
And you didn't drill us. So Tuck's still coming.
All
put them away, man.
Let's just obviously hold on. What if Tuck beats Jim Harbaugh? Matt? Do you think that this pod would just dissolve and we'd never record another one?
Yeah, we might as well not do it anymore.
It'd be bad. It'd be bad. Lucky they got to Indy last year and they won the Big Ten, because if he started off 0-3 versus Tucker,
I tell you what, that's like kind of what I love about this rivalry, man. It's kind of even if Michigan loses, it's still kind of there's some fun to it, because it's always is like some crazy game, or it's what makes sports great. If Michigan State somehow pulled up this crazy upset, I mean, East Lansing would be unbelievable. We picked the wrong tailgating spot. If that's
yeah,
I mean,
trouble with the punt.
Speaking of that, I was there for that game. I was tailgating,
Really?
and yeah, that was an interesting atmosphere. I
Well,
remember vividly. We didn't go to the game. Same idea. Tailgated and watched. It was silent when that play happened. You could hear the Michigan State fans in the big house cheering. It was an insane scene. You could hear beer bottles smashing in the street and
you immediately try to pack up and get out of there as quick as you could.
No, we were staying. We had some buddies who live right next to the big house, so we were staying there.
Nice.
But it was like ridiculous, man. So hopefully you don't have to experience that, Jared. Hopefully you're just riding high and enjoying a nice blowout.
All right, go blue. Prep spotlight coming up next.
All right, guys. Well, we've been talking about the Michigan high school football playoffs coming up here for quite a while now. You know, we've been anticipating with our prep spotlight the playoffs coming, and they're already here. It's kind of crazy to think about. So joining us in the prep spotlight for the second time is Sam Ali. You can follow him on Twitter at Sam Ali Sports. He's a Mid-Michigan now sports director, so he's plugged into the scene. And like I said, second time on, so a returning prep spotlight guest. So thanks for joining us, Sam. You pumped for the playoffs or what?
First of all, are we allowed to humble brag at all?
Sure.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Who was hyping up Corona before the season started?
Yes, sir.
True.
Now they faltered a little bit, Sam. I mean, they're faltering a little bit.
That's what we were talking about before we recorded. Ted called their game, a couple nights ago against OE, so he saw it firsthand.
Instant classic.
Yeah, they definitely. So I mean, let's start right there. So Corona, they finished the season because they lost against Ovid Elsie. Finished the season at 7-2, but still a great regular season for the Cavaliers, Division 5, and they're opening with Williamston, a tough team. Ted, you actually said you called one of their games earlier this year.
Yep.
Very similar style to Corona, but they get to host. They'll be at Nick and Neese Field. Corona hosting Williamston. They're in the rest of the district, Olivet, Portland, some other really good teams. If you had to look at that one, what are you thinking? Are you still hyping up Corona, or are you thinking they got a tough one against Williamston?
I think it'll be tough just because you're looking at two 7-2 teams, and it looks like 57.8 in terms of the points, and Williamston's at 53. So should be evenly matched. And when it comes to those games, you really got to stick with the home team. And Corona's just got that ability, guys, to run the ball, play, clock control. And when they got to take a shot downfield, they can do it. And that's really sometimes the difference when it comes to the playoffs. It seems like everyone's kind of run centric, but when you can throw and actually have the threat of throwing, that's a huge, huge difference. I would still give them to be the favorites in their game.
So a lot of the teams in our area, there's Davison, Corona's one of them, Portland, Williamston, a ton of solid teams. I don't think there's anyone that really stands out above the pack, maybe a Durand. I asked you this question, I believe, first time we had you on earlier on in the year. Now that you see how the matchups have kind of laid out, is there a team you think has maybe the best chance in our area to end up making it to Ford Field?
I feel like it's a cop out, but Frankenmuth, I've seen their games. It's not just that offense; their defense is holding teams to like 6 points per game. They had like 3 shutouts. They've beaten quality teams in that process, but man, they are just so good. And if you want to play a low scoring game, we learned that in the Freeland game, that if you want to go low scoring with them, they can hang with you. And, they ended up shutting out Freeland. And if they want them to put up points on the board, they can do that. They've honestly been the best looking team that I've seen this season.
By the way, avoided their district, so that's a good thing.
Absolutely. By the way, this segment brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. And Sam, in the upper divisions, would you say Davison maybe ready for another run?
A deep run, a state title run. I don't know. I'm just looking at this. Are they in the same set? Okay, making sure they're not in the same side as like Belleville and all those other teams. Some of these Division I teams are so good, and it's just going to be a struggle for them. I mean, I could definitely see them making it to the regional, the regional final. I don't know. Man, it's just going to be really tough for them when you've got Rockford and Brighton on their side. And then even if they can get past that, to get onto Belleville. I mean, Division One's going to be tough for them, but they'll have it.
Yeah, and I saw Rockford just made a huge statement when they smoked Caledonia on Friday. So I mean, the Rockford's always good, I feel like. But I mean, with that win, you got to think, geez, they're about ready to make a run. Jared mentioned Durand. I don't know how much you've covered Durand or paid attention to their story. We had their head coach on a few weeks ago, and so we close to where we grew up, so we kind of keep an eye on the Railroaders. Are you buying their stock, or you think like maybe a little bit of fool's gold with that offense that they're running, kind of similar to Frankenmuth a little bit?
Exactly. And the toughest part is that they're all excited, undefeated for the first time in forever, and some quality wins down the stretch when people were questioning if this team is real. And then they're matched up, I believe, against the defending state champions.
Lansing Catholic. Yeah. A little bit down, though.
That's that championship. You're talking about experience against a little inexperienced. And I believe when I was looking it up, Durand, they faced Durand in the first round last year, and then knocking them off and ending their season. So there's a little bit of familiarity with their. At the end of the day, the quality wins at the end of the season made us feel like that this is not a team that's just going to get blown out or just blown out of the water in the first round, no matter who they're facing. So I give them as good of a shot as anyone else. But man, they're going to be tested right out of the gate. You keep doubting this team, they're probably going to keep proving you wrong.
It's kind of like in college football. Like, this year, Alabama has, looked a little human, but if they get to the playoff, or if they get, it's that experience. It's kind of what you're talking about. They've been there. Nick Saban's been there. They know what they're doing, even if they're a little down. So it's kind of like New Lothrop. I mean, Durand beat New Lothrop with a big statement win for Durand, and they end up in a district with Pewamo Westphalia, who's a little down this year, but still it's PW. So like, is that, you think New Lothrop has a chance to make a run? Have you paid attention to the Hornets, or you think this isn't a year for them?
It goes back to the experience. It's that same coaching staff. They know what it takes to win. When it comes to, at the end of the day, now we're moving into do or die. We're moving into the one every week could be your last week. You just can't count out a team like that has that experience, that has that winning championship experience. It's one thing when you're getting to the playoffs and losing, in the first round or in the second round. These guys know what it takes to move on, and I really think they'll be able to right the ship. I don't know how deep they'll be able to go, but they'll pull off some wins. They're not good. They're definitely not going to be a one and done.
I'm all on the railroad train. I'm going to tell you that right now. And
he's bought his tickets. The tickets are bought.
I bought the tickets. And Sam, I go back a long way against Durand when I played in high school, and they were our biggest rival. So it's a little tough to come out and say that, but they're for real. I mean, they downed Marine City, which was ranked number 5 in week 9. So they're rolling into the playoffs. I do agree, the experience factor could be in effect. But the question I have for you, do you follow the 8-man game much as well? Because I know Merrill's having a fantastic season up in your territory, and some of the other teams up there in 8-man football, which has become really popular for the smaller school districts.
It's become really popular, but just my humble opinion, the UP just owns 8-man football right now. I don't know who's going to be able to knock off teams like Powers North Central. Munising is playing extremely well. They've really, really owned it, and it kind of lends itself to those small communities who I was there at the very beginning of 8-man up there in the UP when the communities were so against it. So you're talking about these historic, a school like Munising that was so, had so much tradition, and then they felt like downgrade to 8-man. Hey, it's still the same. It's still football at the end of the day. You got to play the game. I don't see anyone getting past any of those teams. They're probably going to be cruising to the championship.
Yeah. Are there any matchups that the brackets just came out. So, I mean, it's still, digesting the brackets, but any districts, any matchups, anything that you're looking at that you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see who wins this, or anything like that?
I'm excited for the rematch, Lapeer and Clarkston. I don't know. I still think Lapeer's they've got the ammo. They've still got the weapons to pull off, and it would be I wouldn't even call it an upset. It would be a mild upset, and then we'll see what happens with Davison and Grand Blanc. If we can see Davison and Lapeer again, and then when you see it, they just played them, so it's still fresh in their minds. It wouldn't be a gimme that Davison will probably blow them out again. I don't know. Lapeer, we can't disregard what they did the entire season just because of what's been happening in the last couple of weeks.
I love their nickname too, the Lapeer Lightning. That just kind of rolls off the tongue.
It lends itself to highlights because then you can be like, and the Lightning strike again. And
almost writes itself, right?
well, Sam, we really enjoy what you do there. Before we sign off, and we appreciate you taking the time out to join us here on a full podcast because we're all over the prep scene and the football playoffs. This is awesome. You took time out. Tell our listeners again the best way to check out what you do.
You can check us out, of course, on Twitter is basically where I live, at Sam Ali Sports. And then on Facebook is the same, Sam Ali Sports right there. And then you can go to our website, midmichigannow.com, where we've got all the updates. Just uploaded all the brackets right now, so you can take a look and see of our local teams. I believe I counted about 35 right around there, our mid-Michigan teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And then, of course, check us out on Fox 66, NBC 25, 5 and 6, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 10 p.m., and 11 p.m. Might be later, though, because we're going to have the World Series, guys. So
all right.
On Fox, we're going to have those games where we're going to be, doing football highlights at like 2 a.m.
I remember those days. Jared, you might too, because we started off at a local, the Fox station in Grand Rapids. And I remember when baseball was on Fox, you were just kicked back, waiting for those games to end. So that's funny you say that.
World Series, whatever year, I think it was when the Red Sox won it, 2018 or whenever that was, and there was like a 15, 16, 17 inning game that we had to wait for it to
that
was a rough night.
I was at a Fox affiliate then. We didn't get out till like 4:30. We were looking for a Denny's afterwards to try to find somewhere to eat. It was just so bad. But we'll have all that, and then of course, like I mentioned, we'll have the World Series on Fox as well. Be sure to tune in for that.
All right, awesome. Sam Ali for the win. Thanks for joining us again, Sam.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, next up on the Prep Spotlight, we have a first-time guest, but have really enjoyed what he has done on TV, Brandon Green of ABC12, star of the Highlight Zone. But before we talk to you about some of the teams in our area, since it is your first-time appearance, give us a little background how you made it over to the Flint area and on the air.
Wow. I was in South Dakota before I came to Flint, in Sioux Falls at KDLT. That's basically where I cut my teeth for 9 months out there covering Coyotes, Jackrabbits, all the high school sports out there.
Nice.
That was my first job out of college too. So 9 months fast forward, TV station got bought, decided not to stay, and just moved on to Flint.
Wow.
Yeah, and the real draw that brought me to Flint was I came on a visit and just hearing like all the history like behind it and what sports means to Flint, obviously the Flintstones, and then you'll be hard pressed to find another city that has 4 NBA players, prominent NBA players that people know who they are. So it's a special place. It's a very special place.
No, Flint's cool. I mean, we grew up, about 20 minutes outside of Flint, but definitely my parents are from Flint. Ted has Flint connections. Everyone, Jared too. So yeah, we definitely understand what Flint's about. It's really cool, especially ABC12. We were talking before we started recording. It's a like a deep history of sports directors and sports anchors at ABC12, the Greg Molzens, the Ed Phelps and all that. So like, is it, you mentioned going through the tapes. Is it kind of cool going through the archives of ABC12?
Yeah, it's kind of like every day you walk in, you're chasing ghosts, so to speak, because everybody still talks about those guys.
Yeah.
Another one to mention in there is Ryan Slocum too, in his storytelling. So when you look at all their old stuff and what they used to do, it like makes you go to another level and makes you appreciate what you do even more.
So you're originally from like the DMV area.
Yep.
You've been in Michigan for a short period of time. What do you make of the Friday Night Lights? Is it at least compared to where you come from? How does it stack up?
It's right up there. I would say Maryland for me, it's just a little bit better, so to speak, like more energy. And that's just because I grew up there and I know the history.
Yeah.
And then there's a big separation between private schools and public schools in Maryland. Like the private schools, DeMatha, Gonzaga, St. John's, that whole WCAC, like you're walking out there, you're seeing probably 12 to 15 NFL players on the field at one time. Like Caleb Williams over there at USC, I remember watching him for Gonzaga football going up against DeMatha.
Right.
So it's just like the talent level is just different, which you get that here when you go to some of these bigger schools. Like you see that type of talent level, but the DMV is different. If you ever go to a Friday night, make sure to head over to like a DeMatha or somewhere like that. It's like a college, for real college type atmosphere.
Yep. Speaking of talking about all the talent and stuff, one that's kind of close to us, we've had him on the podcast, Brendan Sullivan, now starting down at Northwestern.
Right.
Which is, he's a starting quarterback down there. Played at Davison though, and I know, Davison is a traditional power in the Flint area. What do you think about their draw? Are you thinking Davison is poised for a little run to Ford Field, or you think they've got a tough draw there?
It's looking that way, but that bracket is tough. Because we all knew last week when they were going up against Lapeer, that was basically they were playing for the number 1 seed in that bracket. So that was a huge win for them. And then they just beat Grand Blanc 2 weeks ago. But you always know in these type of matchups that anything can happen. Because when Davison played Grand Blanc this year, GB was up 14-0 in a blink of an eye. And then Davison just rattled off all those points straight. But anything can happen in those games. So if you don't bring your A game, you may be going home that night. Because then, like, once you get past Grand Blanc, which they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you, then you have to deal with Lapeer and Clarkston. And you've seen both of those teams earlier this year, too. So it's just, that's one of the more interesting brackets. But Davison, they're just so complete. But what I like about them is their offense and their defensive line is just nasty. They got a bunch of big dudes that just like to play football and get dirty. And that's what you need in the playoffs to control both line of scrimmages. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they throw it out with Braylon Himalayan and Henry Karstarf the third, because Henry has really come on these past couple of weeks, but they also got AJ Hill and then Jalen Flowers back there toting the rock. So they could cut you a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You're in the Flint area and you get a chance to cover the bigger schools, but here in mid-Michigan, we cover some of the smaller schools, like our alma mater, the Corunna Cavaliers, are having a nice season. They've faltered a couple games this year, but they still have a lot of talent. But really, the story of the year is the Durand Railroaders in our area, undefeated, first time since I think 1982. They've gone 9-0, and I think it even goes back to the 70s when they finished undefeated. Tell us about maybe some of the input you've been getting from Railroaderville over there.
So we went to a couple games for them this year, but this past Friday was like my first time actually going to a Durand game since I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like an atmosphere you won't find it. Because it seems like the whole town is at these games.
They are. The whole town is there.
The thing that's cool is that I thought was really dope is they had the like railroad signs and stuff on the scoreboard
that light up.
Before they would go up. I was like, that's sweet.
Well, I got to ask you this: did you get jumped out of your shorts when they blew that train horn for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, because I got there like right before halftime, so I heard it at halftime. So it wasn't like it like scared me a little bit. It still threw me off. I'm not gonna lie. Like you think like a train's like gonna go past like the end zone or something like that. But their football team is like really good. I wish I could have stayed longer. I was only there for the third quarter when they were playing Marine City. But Gabe Lynn, Jesus, he had one of the best quarters I've seen in a long time. He had like a 25-yard touchdown run, flipped that next series for the Marine City. He got an interception.
Yep.
Took that back to the house. 2 series later, he scores from 51 yards out. I'm like, this team is for real because you see what they did in the MHSAA this year, like just breezing through Montrose, Lothrop, which you think like, okay, like they could do that, like, but then like to see it up close, it really set it in stone for me that these dudes are for real, like, and they're ready to play some football.
They play a style of football that's going to translate into the playoffs. They can run.
Yeah.
They've got an offensive line that's basically like a GLIAC offensive line. You know, a bunch of guys that could probably play D2 football, maybe D1. You know, smaller D1, and they can run the ball. So I mean, I'm very curious to see how far they go because, at least my memory, Ted's memory, you know, we all played against Durand. You know, they've been up and down. So to see them up like this,
way up.
It's really cool to see. Ted mentioned Corona. I know you guys have covered them a little bit too. 7-2, like Ted kind of mentioned. They're matched up against Williamston. You have any thoughts on that bracket, that side of the bracket? I guess that district. You think Corona is gonna maybe make a little run, or you think they're, maybe like 1 or 2 games in, and that might be their peak? I guess
it's all going to come down to defense for Corona, because we all know their offense could put up points.
Yeah.
We obviously know that, but you look at these tight games, like they pulled it out against Swartz Creek, but then the next week they turn around and lose to Owosso. It's all about those like little situations, because their quarterback is, correct me if I'm wrong, Wyatt Bauer, right?
Yep.
Big kid, can throw it, can run it. He's basically Cam Newton for their offense. You know what you're going to get from him, but it's just like all like, those like little pieces, like D-line, the secondary, making sure that there's no mess ups, because I just got to look at this Williamston team real quick.
Williamston 7-2 also. Pretty similar style. I mean, Ted called the Owosso game a couple nights ago, Coronas. And how many times did they fumble, Ted?
They fumbled 7 times, 2 muffs and 5 fumbles, and that cost them. And then they had a 2-point conversion, should have got it, so for the win. But Williamston has a very good quarterback, and they got some talent. I think they match up well, if you want, in my opinion. So it's going to be a good matchup in that first round. Of course, Portland, always very strong, and they're on the other side of the bracket. And Corona, I think also, geez, I'm taking over the conversation, but they're strong at home, but they've had a little weakness on the road. They got drilled by Goodrich, and Goodrich is a very good team, and so they'll protect the home turf. Probably they'll play a real good game, toss up on win or lose, but then they'll have a tough matchup probably with Portland.
There, and in the playoff, it's just all about, to be honest, it's just all about who really gets hot. Talking about this, it's just the run game. Like if you could run the ball and you can control the clock and really put pressure on the other team, then you could basically control the game, do whatever you want to do. So it's going to come down to that for the Cavs, in my opinion.
Yep.
I asked the same question to Sam, who we had on this pod as well. It's Ford Field or bust, if we're being honest, for a lot of these teams, or just who people end up caring about at the end of the year. So if you had to pick one team, maybe it's Davison, maybe it's Durand. If you had to pick one team you think that has the best chance of making it to Ford Field this year, who would you pick?
I think it's Frankenmuth's year.
Same answer Sam had.
Yeah, that's
yeah, they're legit.
Because I watched this ever since I got here. Frankenmuth, I don't think I ever seen them lose a regular season game, which sometimes it's for them. It just hasn't translated to Ford Field yet. So it's like, how many times you got to knock on the door before they finally kick it down? Because that's my thing. Because you have to love every single year they have a quarterback that can throw it on time. They have a running back that's like a little smaller, but he's big, he's stocky, and he's fast. And their offensive line is going to create some holes that you didn't even think was going to be there. Like that's every year, and their defense is going to come at you and they're going to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Put all that together.
Good formula.
At one point, that's going to get you to Ford Field.
Well, that's a good way to end it here, Brandon. We appreciate the time. And I just was going to ask you, you got a nice little teamwork on your Friday nights there with your new guy, Yosef. You both do a great job with the highlights. We appreciate what you do. Tell our listeners the best way to follow you.
best way to follow us is on social media. Get on Twitter. I'm on Instagram too at bgreenreports. Facebook as well. We post a lot on there, but also ABC12.com or just channel 12.
There you go.
Sir.
Well, keep up the good work. We appreciate the time, Brandon.
No problem. You fellas have a great night.
You too.
All right.
Thank you. All right, guys. It's the best time of year, man. I mean, it's this, and then it's March Madness for high school sports. They're both great in their different ways. Selection Sunday, man. There's so much hope, so much excitement in the air. I mean, I loved watching the selection show on Valley, man, because I loved watching and seeing all the different look-in lives of the different watch parties. I mean, I saw cool. Rockford's. Looked like Rockford fit their entire team into somebody's basement. I mean, must have been a mansion, which doesn't surprise me for the area.
No,
but that was a little shot that I saw. It's just a lot of fun. But one thing I want to throw out before we maybe dive into some of the specific games and stuff, it really clicked when I saw the Jason Hutton live tweeting the Caledonia Rockford game this past Friday. And I thought the same thing when we did that game last year. And the same thing when I worked at Fox 17. But, I've seen a lot of games, on the east side of the state this year. Detroit, seeing the best teams that Detroit has to offer. My whole life I spent it in mid-Michigan, seeing all the best teams that Flint, Lansing had to offer. We went up to Traverse City Central. I've seen up north games. I've seen that atmosphere. Spent a few years, at Fox 17 covering the west side. And Matt, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. Ted, you as well, having maybe not gone all over the state, but definitely been Michigan. I think the west side of the state has the best atmosphere, the best teams, pound for pound. Go to a random game, on the west side. It's going to be two pretty solid teams. That the crowd's going to be good. It's going to be a turf football field. It's going to be a beautiful stadium. In my opinion, my short, young life, I really do think the west side has the best high school football, Michigan high school football. When you think of that, you think of West Michigan. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'd have to agree. Yeah, I'll be curious to hear what Ted has to say. He's been doing it much longer than us, but I remember having like an eye-opening experience the first time I started covering high school football for Fox 17, going to Rockford, going to Lowell, going to East Grand Rapids, and just being like, oh my God, this is not Durand. This is not Ovid Elsie. This is not even
and that's not a knock at them either.
No, not a knock at all. Because I think I appreciate both. So obviously Rockford, when they've got 10,000 people there at that amazing stadium, is awesome. Like you said, it's maybe one of the best. Muskegon, when that place is full, it's maybe one of the best atmospheres in the state. But biased, when we were playing in the playoffs and even through the regular season at Nick and Neese Field, that place was jam packed and it was 4 deep around the fence, and they had to bring extra bleachers in for the visitors. That also is an awesome atmosphere. Take those smaller communities like Durand, like Brandon talking about the railroad signs and all that stuff at Durand and the train whistle. Like, that's just as cool as in East Grand Rapids or some of these other ones. You just have to appreciate it a little differently.
Right. And
then Owosso, obviously. Owosso's field might be one of the coolest settings in Michigan. Now, obviously, they don't fill it up like Rockford maybe, but that setting has to be one of the coolest high school football in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
The second they get turf on that thing, man, it's going to be hosting semifinal games.
Yeah,
I don't know when they're going to do it. Maybe, I mean, they already did their bonds or whatever, so maybe we're a bit of ways from them getting turf. But as soon as they do, Ted's going to be sitting up there on a semifinal Saturday calling the game.
Hopefully I'm still above ground by that time. but to answer your question, my heart's obviously right here in mid-Michigan, but you can't argue what's going on in West Michigan. The success of the teams there year in and year out. Yeah, the facilities. Every time we had to go over there and broadcast a game in one of those stadiums, it's just awe-inspiring. And, it's first-class accommodations all the way. So it's hard to argue that. But to Matt's point, too, when you get a big game at Corunna Nicanese Stadium and there's 4 deep along the sidelines and the visiting stands jam-packed, the home stands jam-packed, the game's live on the radio, there might be some live video there. That's a great atmosphere, too. Yeah. So I agree with Jared's open. This is one of the best times of year.
Yeah.
Well, it is, man. I remember, I think we've probably talked about it in years past. I remember, man, the juice is flowing. We were sitting at Little Caesars in Corunna on my senior year waiting for the selections. Fox Sports Detroit back then, not Valley Sports Detroit, but it's just so cool, man. The whole community is bought in. We knew we were going to be hosting a game, so everyone in Corunna is going to be there. And you were broadcasting the game, Ted, so we knew we were on the radio. we knew we were going to be on ABC12. We knew we were going to be on, Fox 66, Fox 4. It's just like, it's that whole thing. I think Ted or Jared, you mentioned it when we were talking to John Webb, Durant's head coach. Like the kids just soaking it in. Like what a time. Now looking back, we're older, we're wiser now. Like looking
Hopefully.
back, it's like, man, there's a lot of other things that you do in your life that are fantastic, but it's like, that's like the time of your life, man. You got nothing to worry about. You just playing high school football with the kids your friends that you grew up with. I'm getting up on a soapbox and I'm starting to preach, but man, it's such a cool time. When you start talking about it again, it's like, man, that really was fun.
It really is. Before we get into, Corona, I know we want to talk about them. I just want to throw out a couple of things of note on kind of what we've been covering on the East side. Great opening round matchup that we're going to be doing. West Bloomfield versus Cass Tech. Cass Tech barely snuck into the playoffs, believe it or not, which is crazy to say, man. When I say they're so loaded with talent, it's just unbelievable what you get to watch on Friday nights on the East side. Talent, I'll give it to the East side of the state, but atmosphere and all the pageantry of what I think high school football is, it's mid-Michigan, it's the West side. But that's going to be a very fun one. Cass Tech versus West Bloomfield. I mean, D1 talent all over the field. That's kind of like your bad luck draw, Matt, back when you were in high school. Kind of two very, very good teams, just given the vicinity. They have to match up Corona versus Grand Rapids South Christian back in the 02 playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Another great one that I wanted to throw out is and this is just not even a game. It's just a team, man. We had the privilege of covering Belleville versus Brighton this past Saturday. Belleville rolled in 2 unbeaten teams. Brighton, an 8-0 undefeated D1 school. We know Brighton's legit. Great coach Brian Lemons, and Belleville put a running clock on them. They are legit. We can talk about this D1, how it's up in the air. I still think it's Belleville's to lose, man. They are impressive. Their quarterback, Bryce Underwood, number 1 ranked sophomore in the entire country.
Wow.
He's the real deal.
Sophomore.
If you saw last year's state finals, I think he had five passing touchdowns as a true freshman. Shades of J. Rue Campbell, except this guy's 10 times better than J. Rue, man. It's a blast to see him throw. My favorite part about him, as a high school quarterback, he threw it to 8 different receivers on Saturday. I mean, how often do you see that? And the thing is, great runner, he never uses his legs. He doesn't need to. That's kind of like one of those things, man. If you have to run or if you have to throw, if you can just pick somebody apart in the pocket, in high school football level especially, I mean, why wouldn't you do that? They are incredibly good. They have a defensive coordinator, Bill Sheridan, I believe is his name, former NFL coach.
NFL and college.
Yeah, NFL and college. I mean, talk about just the perfect blend of coaching and just talent all over the field. I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody to take them down. They are definitely the runaway favorite, in my opinion, in D1. They are damn good.
Yeah.
Well, let's briefly here get into our area just a bit. I mean, our Corona Cavaliers, a couple tough road losses this year. The one Friday night, give all the credit to Ovid Elsie because the comments we were making in that third and fourth quarter was Corona just couldn't put them away. Ovid Elsie just kept sticking in there. Corona helped them a lot by fumbling the ball, but it's a cliche, but it definitely was an instant classic the way that game finished. In fact, we were talking off air about the 1 second to go in regulation. The Ovid Elsie kid, a foreign exchange student from France, drilled the ball, and I called it good at first. I said, it's good, and all of a sudden I see the referee waving it off, and everybody in the press box going, what on earth is happening here? It was that close. So it was 1 second. They go to overtime. Ovid Elsie scores, kicks the PAT. Corona scores on their possession, and then they run the swinging gate, have the center, the guy that snaps the ball, open in the end zone, pretty open, and just couldn't complete it. It was tipped up and intercepted, and Ovid Elsie went wild. And it was such a great atmosphere because you guys have played at Ovid Elsie, I think. I don't know, what kind of atmosphere it was when you played, but it's a neat little stadium. We talk about Wilman all the time, but they have the sunken field and the home stands are cut right into the hill.
Yeah.
But now they have turf. And for the very first time, they brought out all maize uniforms. It was just a tremendous.
They were coming for blood, man, and it's a bummer for Corona. We're all Corona guys. Yeah. I talked last week how important it was to win that last regular season game. I mean, we were floundering. I just to bring it back. Nobody wants to hear about my career, but at least I could draw this parallel. We were kind of floundering my senior year, heading into week 9 against Chesaning. Had a bit of a tune-up game. Ted, you probably remember, beat them by 60, I think. And we were just rolling high heading into playoffs. I wonder if a loss like that, overtime, had the game right in their grasp, had a guy open in the end zone, just missed him. I wonder how much that'll haunt them, and they're going to need their A game against Williamston. And I got to throw this out there, man. What a fun little side story. Former Corunna coach Kyle Robinson, now special teams coordinator at Williamston. I mean, wouldn't it be almost just kind of hilarious if they just had some perfectly dialed up like reverse on a kick return or something like that? That just to bring a little extra juice to the press box up there, Ted. I mean, how much do you think special teams could play in this game?
Well, let me tell you this. They instituted the swinging gate, so it won't be any surprise for Corunna because they brought that out against St. John, and I know right where that came from.
Yep,
that's funny. We talked about Corunna's this. So Williamston is this Friday. I would assume they're playing Friday night.
Yeah, pretty much everybody is.
Yeah, at Nick and East Field. So that's going to be a great game. And then a couple other teams. We talked to Brian Calloway about Portland. He brought up Olivet also. Potential teams that Corunna could see if they advance.
Yeah.
And, it's a little bit of a tough draw. But like you said, I mean, they faltered a couple times, but they've been playing really well. If they play their game, they definitely could win that district.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's kind of like a district of death. I feel it's like Team USA in the World Cup every year. They're always, quote unquote, in the region of death. That's kind of what that feels like. 4 pretty solid teams. I would say Portland's probably the favorite, but I wouldn't put them as more of a touchdown favorite than whoever wins the Corunna Williamson game. It's just going to be a lot of fun. That's a classic old CAAC white conference region right there that I'm excited to see the winner of.
It is, and then on the Division 6, they got a nice little district there with Durand taking on Lansing Catholic, and on the other side of the bracket, Almont taking on Ovid Elsie, and you could see a rematch of Ovid Elsie and Durand. And as you mentioned, Jared, Ovid Elsie's got to be flying high into this game, even though it will be a road game. You never know what can happen with the Marauders. They feel pretty good right now.
And like we said, I don't remember if it was Sam. I think it was Sam Ali said, about there's something about teams that have been there before, like a Pewamo, Westphalia. I think they're 5-4 this year. So for them, a little bit down, but they've been there before. They get it. Durand, this is a little bit new to them. So is that going to play a factor? Are they riding a little too high type of thing? Are they just, on fire and
I think they're on fire, man.
They get smacked in the face by no, I don't think so. But last year's state champion is coming into Durand, a little down, but it's still a good team.
Here's the thing that I think is important for Durand. They are going to have home field advantage all the way up until that semifinal. And we heard Brandon talking about that. Durand used to have I remember the toughest place I ever played high school basketball was against Durand. And they had like one win that year. Ted, I think you called that game. It was a villainous atmosphere.
Oh, that gym's tough.
Like at that football field now that they're like undefeated rolling into playoffs, man. I mean, it makes me want to go see a game. Ted, I know you're kind of scratching at the bit to be able to call one of the games. I mean, that's the place to be on Friday nights for the rest of the playoffs is whenever Durand is playing.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. We've talked about some of the other brackets too. I mean, you brought up Pewamo Westphalia, even down at 5-4. They're hosting their first game against Bath, and that looks to set up a rematch from many great games, PW and New Lothrop.
Yeah. I know, man. I'm very curious to see how that district shakes out. It seems like 2 teams that are very proud, maybe having a couple down years, but you get into playoffs, man. You get rolling a little bit, win a game here, get some momentum rolling, and anything can happen.
Well, and I think people forget. They look at the win-loss record and maybe aren't into it as deep as some of us. I mean, they play a lot of bigger schools. New Lothrop's upsizing, and Pewamo Westphalia, their 4 losses are all the big-time schools. So
there's battle.
That's why they're hosting a first-round game with 4 losses.
It is kind of funny seeing I know a 3-win team got in. I mean, it's kind of bizarre seeing that. Like, I guess making playoffs doesn't really mean anything, but it's a lot better seeing that happen than what used to happen in the past, where a very well-deserving 5-4 team just happens to play a very tough schedule, happens to get in this new system. So
I really like this new system. I think it's probably the most fair way they've had ever since they started the playoff system. I really do.
I agree.
Before we sign off from our prep portion, I do got to send a volleyball shout out to Owosso senior Kendall M. She's going to be moving on to play at Saginaw Valley State University. She got her 1,000th kill against Clio this week. And Corunna's Nalaje Sims, she's going on to play at Missouri State, also hit the 1,000 kill milestone in a 3-set win over Brandon. So a couple of good female athletes there winding down their careers. So we keep an eye on everything, guys.
When's the last time you went to Battle Creek, man, for volleyball finals? Have you ever?
Yeah, I've been there. It's a great atmosphere. I went there. Geez, time flies. Might have been 7 or 8 years ago. I think Corunna had a really good volleyball team, and I went down there.
It is
and
awesome. I tell you, that was one of those like very long days at Fox 17 when I was
Right.
there from left the station at 7 a.m. Didn't get back till about midnight.
Yep.
But it was very fun. I was very pleasantly surprised, man. Packed house, crowd's loving it. The
Pretty
teams
cool
are
old arena.
up. It's a great environment.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is cool.
All right. Well, that's our prep spotlight for the week, brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. And we're going to just briefly talk about the dynamic Detroit Lions right after this.
Well, as I told you guys last week, I officially moved the Lions to red zone. This Sunday, sadly, I've officially moved the Lions to
Off the calendar.
Off the calendar. It's nap time, man. I woke up, saw the score, 6-24. Dear God, man, this team is dreadful. It's a new problem every week. 1 week it's the offense, 1 week it's the defense. It's just dreary. I feel like there's a firing coming soon. I don't know if it's Aaron Glenn. He finally had a good week, it seemed. I don't know if it's the offense coordinator. I don't know if it's Dan Campbell himself.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but something needs to change. I mean, we knew the season maybe would lead to this at some point. We didn't expect to be here already.
Right.
I didn't expect to be napping at this point, especially week 2 after that Commanders big time win. I mean, we looked damn good, man.
Yeah.
And now, sadly, we're just kind of realizing this is just another Lions team. Hutchinson had another sack today. I was luckily, that was before I finally passed out. I did get to see that with my own 2 eyes. But it's just a struggle city, man. Detroit, just another dreadful Lions team. What else is new?
Yeah. Hutchinson had a couple sacks, and one of the big adjustments was it looked like they started having him stand up to rush the passer, which he did at Michigan and had a lot of success with, and he hadn't been doing that all year. So I don't know if they just finally made that change. Like you said, Aaron Glenn, the defense, they played pretty well today. Dak Prescott came back for the Cowboys, so maybe he was a little rusty. Getting back into it. But the defense, they did what they had to do. They ended up giving up 24, but really they got stops. They were forcing punts. They forced a couple turnovers. The defense played pretty well. The offense, though, man, I know people were just hyping up, and we have been too. We've been saying the offense is playing pretty well all season. But it seems like if you look back at it, it's a little bit of fool's gold. They were in some shootouts, where they were having to score points. They were down, so they were just having to throw it all over the yard to just score points. St. Brown got hurt again. Swift didn't come back. So, yes, they're missing 2 of their key pieces on offense, but Jared Goff was just terrible today. 2 interceptions and a fumble. And, it's one of those things I've been saying all along. It's not like some prophecy or something like that, but he is who he is. He's going to have some games, like you said, against the Commanders or other games where you're like, this dude could do it. He could win us 8, 9, 10 games. And then he has other games like this where you're like, there's a reason Sean McVay was so quick to get him out of there, to get Matthew Stafford. And I don't know if there's a firing. I think we've all said, I don't think they're going to fire Dan Campbell. I feel like they're going to give him 1 more year just because the roster is so bad. I feel like maybe not, though. I mean, he's been pretty bad. They may not give him another year.
I don't know.
Something's got to change. Something's got to change.
You never know with the NFL. My biggest, I guess, disappointment this year, man, is we saw glimpses of greatness. DeAndre Swift. He just can't stay on the field.
No.
Same with St. Brown. St. Brown started looking great. Now he can't stay on the field.
Yeah.
It's all about the players. I mean, the coaches have a big part in the game too, but the players got to play. They can't be fumbling the ball. You got to produce on the field. And it all goes together with the mentality of the Lions. Here's how I see it. Here we are. It is disappointing. It's October 23rd as we record this, and they're done. I'm joining Jared. I'm going to be watching the Lions every week because I'm a dedicated Lion fan. But as I watch them, I will be probably counting on a nap second and third quarters. As I'll kind of have the game on, listen a little bit. But I'm of the opinion right this moment. You ride it out the rest of this year. Let's give them the chance to right the ship to at least some respectability. Personally, and I'm not the owner, so Sheila may end up canning somebody, but I ride it out. I ride it out with Campbell. I ride it out with the assistants. Their backs are against the wall. It's an embarrassing franchise. Let them run the year out and then see what happens. But if at the end of the year, It could be axe time for Campbell and the rest of the staff. They could do it. I don't know. But they got the rest of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it is partly like if you fire Aaron Glenn or whoever,
right?
It's kind of like, well, what's the point? It's not like you have. It's not like you have someone waiting, some like young guy waiting to be the next great defensive coordinator. So even Dan Campbell, like, what are you going to have Aaron Glenn take over as head coach, or someone else? Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm with you. Ride it out. See what they do. Last year, the last 3-4 games of the year, they actually started playing pretty well. So, like you said, respectability. See if they can win some games. But if it continues like this, they're going to have to make some changes because it's not just about building a better roster. You got to develop. You've got to be able to coach these guys and stuff. So, Dan Campbell is he's getting close. That hot seat or that seat must be getting warm over there. You'd have to think.
It's got to
and like to a point, he's got to be the same way because he's been the one that's he knows Detroit. He played there. He wants to win. All that. He's got to be saying the same thing. Like, man, this whatever we're doing is just not working. You know what I mean? Like,
he's got to quit. He's got to be just frustrated to answer the same damn questions in every press conference after the game. It's always basically the same stuff. They just
here's the good news, man. It's looking like we're going to tank out the rest of the year. It's the worst thing in the world. We knew that this wasn't a Super Bowl. We're still not winning a Super Bowl. Even if we had the season from heaven this year, still wasn't a Super Bowl contender.
Right.
Loaded quarterback class coming in. Let's see who we can get. So just keep counting down the days until the draft, man. And the draft's coming to Detroit in a couple of years. We'll probably have the number 1 pick that year too. So keep counting down the days of the draft. It's our favorite day of the year.
Perfect way to end it, fellas. Let's just call this a podcast. It's been a lot of fun. It's been presented by Memorial Healthcare, home of the new Now Community Wellness Center. Don't forget their fall open house on November 16th from 4 to 7. Tours, raffles, smoothie samples, all kinds of good stuff going on, including 50% off enrollment fees to that great workout area. That's located on North Shiawassee Street in Owosso, Michigan. Also, our friends at Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry. Many convenient locations throughout the entire state of Michigan. Use that coupon code 3.20 at the Corunna store for 20% off your first purchase. And also make sure you let all our other great local partners know you listen in and enjoy the program. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Pro Real Estate and Auction, NCG Cinemas. They are partnered up with us for that big Spartan Wolverine game at Rivals next week. Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Special thanks to Sam Ali and Brandon Green for joining us, giving their perspective on the high school playoffs. And don't forget to check out Chi-Town November 5th at the Bus Stop Bar and Grill in Birch Run. Our Z92.5 Game of the Week will be this Friday night as we record this. Not quite sure where we'll be, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Corunna and Williamston. So until next week, so long, everybody. Peace and love. Be kind, and thanks for listening.